small town called Melk, M-E-L-K. And then, as I arrived, I was in the first row, I remember. As we arrived in Melk, first thing that struck me, the guys that had been with me at the first barrack in quarantine were there. So I knew I was going to meet some friends, the friends of Chateaubriand. I knew there was, and the head accountant was also a friend that I've known. Oh, I said, this is fantastic. I have a break. And as we arrived, we stayed at attention. Then the commanding officer comes in and he inspects the whole rank. And then I saw this friend of mine behind the commanding officer. And I said, hey, my gosh, he's a big shot. He's going to recognize me, I'm sure. So all of a sudden I say, is there any locomotive driver here? I go forward. I'll do anything. As long as I recover my head, I'll do it. And this friend of mine said, he pushed me back. Is there any this, any that? Every time I felt there's a roof, I was offered myself to be taken. And each time I said to myself, he must not recognize me, he doesn't know who I am. And after a while, the thing is over, we go, we have a designated barrack. Then he comes toward me, Pichon his name was. He says, I recognize you, but I have something better for you. Oh, and all the guys behind me, 20 Frenchmen, they were, all waiting to be helped. And imagine, it's like God coming in. We are saved. We know that we're going to be saved. So he sent us in a barrack. He gave us a soup, and then maybe a day or two after, he said, okay, Pierre, you're going to work in the kitchen. The prisoner's kitchen. So I worked in the prisoner's kitchen for about a week or two. Life was beautiful. I was stealing all the food I wanted. I was, perfect. But then one day, I don't know how it happened, they were looking for a chef, head chef. And a friend of mine from Chateaubriand, who knew me from Chateaubriand, he didn't know what I was on the ship. He thought I was a cook. He thought I was a chef. I'm not. I've never been close to a kitchen. I'm a steward. I'm a waiter on the ship. You are a deck steward, but I'm not a cook. But this friend of mine, he knows me. In his mind, oh, Pierre is a cook. So they're looking for a chef at the SS. And he mentioned me. So when the SS learned that the SS, the chef from the Normandy was in the camp, see that guy. Oh, that, I go and see. So I said, Quentin, what did you do? I'm not a cook. No, Pierre, I thought you, no, I'm not. I'm just a guy. I was on the Normandy as a steward. But he said, you'll manage. I said, listen, Quentin, you're a mason. You're a carpenter mason. He said, I told you to be a doctor, would you? Oh, no, Pierre, okay, now I'm stuck, okay? Poor guy, he was such a good, nice man. He saved my life later on. But anyhow, at the time, I was mad at him. So here comes, I'm interrogated. I'm in front of the SS. Striegel. Absturmführer. Striegel. Attention. He brings a dolmetscher, he brings an interpreter. And he says, are you the chef of the Normandy? What can I say? If I say no, my friend is going to be dead. And we were all in trouble, because you couldn't, he would have been beaten. So I said, jawohl. I said, yes. Chef of the Normandy? Jawohl. Ask him how he cook carrots. What would you do if you ask him how you cook carrots? Attention, I peel them, boil them. Sehr gut, morgenfrüh, Arbeit, es ist Küche. That was my introduction. So, I was so upset. I was so happy in my kitchen there. I was with my friend, and I was eating my food, and everything was fun. And here I am. I knew that they're beating the guy over there, and some guy said, okay, Pierre, why don't you go and see Mr. Combanet? I remember his name. He's the chef over there. They throw him, he's been thrown out of the kitchen. I said, why don't you go and introduce him? So I went and I said, night. As I approached, he's an older man. He was one of the oldest men in the camp. He was over 60. It was very difficult to go past that age. A wonderful fellow. And I introduced myself. He looked at me. He said, you're a chef? I said, no, sir. But you're a cook. I said, no, sir. You're not a chef? You're not a cook? And you're going to replace me? The guy was among the best chefs of France. He had worked at the king of either the emperor of Russia or a man from the Escoffiers School. I mean, he was a great chef. And he said, you're going to replace it? Oh, my poor fellow, sir. I said, listen, sorry, it's too late, I can't come back. Explain to me, give me some information, what I do. I start, he said, in the morning, you have a stove, you have two stoves, you do this, you do that, you put the coal doesn't work, you have to clean the stove, and then you do this, and then you do that, and I'm listening, you peel this, and you do that, and then you have your roast, and then you make a sauce. He says, don't watch out to make your sauce. Oh, yes, Mr. Brown, yes, it's all funny. So finally, he said, my turn comes the next morning, I'm in place, chef, SS couché. Oh, thank God, oh my gosh, I made a prayer like I've never prayed in my whole life, and and there was an old German, a capo, but nice, a good old guy. He was in prison for so long, I don't think he even knew there was a war. He had been interned for forced money, I don't know why. A good guy, I call him Fritz, I didn't know his name, but a good capo, he never beat me. And I tried to explain to him in German, I said, nicht gut, nicht gut. He managed the whole thing. I let him lead. So he started to come with me, and I was peeling onions, and I was praying God. Oh God, I said, if there's a God, it's not to show up. Why don't you bring the old man back? Speaking of the old chef,
Right.
you know. But sincerely, I swear to God, I made that prayer. When did bring the old man out? So, you believe it? The next day, or the 2 days after, the old man was back in my kitchen with me.
Mm.
And then I said to myself, the God exists, there's no question about it, because I made up. How could it come back after being thrown out? It's a crazy story. But I prayed to see if he comes, I'm okay. So when he learned that he was coming back, the poor man, he was desperate, because he was beating every day. See, this is the man in charge of the food for the whole camp was that Obsturmfuhrer, or whatever you could call it, Striegel. And he was a killer, a real killer. The whole camp was afraid of him. And this is the guy we had to deal with every day. And every day he used to punch my friend Combaner in the bottom. And my poor friend was, and he loved that. He was crazy. He used to do that. And he threw him out, but apparently he must have, maybe his father was not good enough, I don't know, but they brought him back. So 2 days after, he was desperate. I said, Mr. Combaner, you're the chef. But believe me, you're going to be the best help you ever had in your life. I'm going to be so good. You tell me what to do, I'll do everything. We'll manage the two of us. Oh, he said, Pierre, I said, okay, don't worry, Mr. Commander, we'll survive. And so we started in July, because the Allied had bombed the camp. This is one of the reasons why I was sent there. The Allied had made a mistake, that bombed the...
Before you got there, this happened.
Hmm?
The Allied bomb before you got there?
Yeah, we were replacing the dead and the wounded. That's the reason why they
no.
expelled us from Mauthausen.
Right.
See, I get mixed up. Oh, the raid took place on the 8th of July, I think it was. The American and British, or both, or had made a mistake. They had flown over the camp. They had seen there was Germany there, a tank division, and they had decided with the headquarters in London to bomb that tank. But they took about 1 or 2 months maybe to do the bombing. In the meantime, the Germans removed their tank, their men, and they put prisoners in instead. But the high command in London or in England didn't know it. And when they bombed the tank, the bomb fell all over the place, and they killed, I don't know how many, maybe hundreds, and maybe a couple of hundred wounded. And it was just when they sent those wounded to Mauthausen that I was sent to replace them. And so the life was... I took Mr. Combaner's place. I said, Mr. Combaner, don't worry, I'll take the blow. When he comes at 12 o'clock, every time he used to come, that fellow Striegel, we had to cook his steak because he was a husky guy. Boy, what a beautiful, 6 foot 7, 8, and 200 pounds or something like that, and a white face, and a little pistol over that, and his boots, and typical SS. And he used to scream and yell. So my job, when he came, I had my stove ready, the fire was on, the steak was there, plate was there, all I had to wait for the order to cook. Because he liked to scare you. It's a comedy, it's a real comedy. And then my friend Combaner would leave. I send him to the gun, I'll stay there. So he started a few things to, I try not to yell like Mr. And he used to use a little pistol, so he had a little pistol, a little gun, he used to put in the back of my head. And yell in German, and German is only a scary language but when you yell at me and with a gun on my back, so what can I do? I look at him very innocently. I was there, and then all of a sudden, okay, cook. Okay, so my plate was ready, my dish was ready, steak he did it his way, I put his dish and his knife on the right and the fork on the left, and blah, blah, blah. And after a while I became more or less, I wouldn't say friendly, no, I was scared stiff of him, but he left me alone. He did the thing of his gun 5-6 times. But then, I'm a rebel by nature. And I don't take that kind of very easily. I had to find a way to fight this my own way. And the only way I could do it was to steal, in order to feed my friends. And I don't were hungry outside. I was fed. I had no complaint. I could steal everything I wanted. In the morning, I was breaking those bones, to make the sauce. All the marrow went right here. They never saw that marrow. That was for me. See, I was revealing myself. But I had occasions to steal, and I did steal a sausage one day, and there was some left over, of course, also, soup, good soup. So I had a couple of young French boys, and I would say, okay, you come at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll have a can of good soup. I put it on a wheelbarrow, covered with sand, and you'll drive it, and you'll eat it. And that was a very well understood. Every day I used to do that kind of soup. And there was enough for about 5 or 6 guys. But then one day, I was with them, I was about to leave, my wheelbarrow, my soup and everything, then at the corner of the barrack, stranger come in. My 2 guys, they left. Oh, they ran away. Here I'm stuck with my wheelbarrow, my soup, and he comes. Luckily, he didn't check under the ashes. Otherwise, he would have. But he knew that something was wrong, and he certainly knew that I had stolen something. Give it to them, and they were running. They had run away. So I was the culprit. So he drove me into the barrack in the kitchen, and he started to yell in German. I didn't understand. Then he went to his office, and he had, I don't know how you call it, a nerve that the beef, the cattle have.
A whip?
It's a whip, but it's made of the bone. So he took it off, and he told the prisoner, you're going to lash him, 25 lashes. Take your pants off, okay? And I was abandoned, on the chair, and he gave the order. The guy told me afterward, he said, Pierre, I couldn't help it. But apparently it didn't hit hard enough. I had to count. Not only was I receiving, but I had to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I knew how to count in German. And so I cannot say for sure how long it lasted. I don't think I had a 25 because he would have killed me certainly. Because I fainted. I had to count. I think I counted until about 10. And from what I understand, what I was told after that, I fainted, I dropped, and he instead of finishing me off, he hit me with his boot on the back of my here. And we had clothes on, they were not disinfected very often, we were dirty. And so with his boot, he hit me here on the bone, I still have a mark there, and the skin, and to survive, he threw me a pail of cold water. Yeah, that's right, to wake me up. So I woke up, the friends took care of me for a while, and then a few days after, I was back in the kitchen, and the following day, like nothing happened. He looked at me like he didn't even remember what happened. But I had a feeling after a few days, I began to develop glands here, from here, see? And those glands became like a lime, almost like all big pigeon eggs. And it was so painful, I couldn't even support my shirt on and I had to walk on that stove. Then, I started to have diarrhea, Everything went wrong, and I could feel that I've been in serious. At that particular moment, to have an inspection of your stool. That's the rule over there. Very funny, because they were afraid that among us someone would be sick and take care of their food. So you had to go through the stool examination.
These were the people that were taking care of
in the kitchen. Yes. Yeah, we have to give our stool, and they would send it to a laboratory, I don't know, and then realize if your stool working. I cannot send Stu like this. My gosh, I'm not diarrhea. If they're going to find out, I'm going to be thrown out of the kitchen. I'm losing my job, and I'm going to be working outside in the rain. A good young boy was there, strong, healthy. He says, "Don't worry, Pierre. I'll put my stool in place of yours." And that's what we did. Okay? He put his stool in a tube that was given, so I was not picked up. But I couldn't take it no more. It was so painful, so I was sent to the Revier. And as I arrived at the Revier, I hardly could walk anymore. My luck continued. I was pinmucky. There was a Polish doctor, and I knew him. And there's also a French doctor. I knew them because I used to come at the Revier many times to see the sick and bring some food and so forth and so on. And that Polish doctor, we were inspected, an SS came to. The SS judge, he was a judge, whether you could enter the Revier or back to work. So as he approached, he approached the doctor, the Polish doctor said to him in German, I could understand, very sick, sehr sick, sehr krank. Okay? Just listen to him. It's okay. Go in the infirmary. So I went to the infirmary, and an hour after I was on the table, with no
Injection.
anesthesia, nothing, no, with a knife, poke. And my luck started. The Polish doctor said, "Pierre, listen, there's only a few disinfectant, whatever you call it, antibiotic. There's a few. We'll give it to you because there's not enough to take care of." Because I used to give him some soup with that Polish doctor. I used to give him a soup once in a while. See, it tastes. And he said, so they opened the drain, they put a drain. The drain was paper drain, because we have not regular, it's not bad data, it was paper. Everything, you used paper. Drain took me to a room, and about a week after, my friend, the old man, used to bring some food, about 10 days after, I was healed, and back to the kitchen. And Striegel didn't even pay attention that I was back. He didn't even tell me, where were you the last 10 days? He never knew I went to Nasper. I never told him nothing. I was back in the same routine. During that period of time, the commanding officer had a lamb, a beautiful black lamb, curly, beautiful, but that was his mascot. So that lamb used to circulate around the camp. But you have to remember that the camp were electrified all over, high-tension wires, 3 rows like this. And one day, we'll never know whether somebody pushed the lamb or whether the lamb went to electric wire. But anyhow, lamb electrocuted, you have to eat it, right? So the commanding officer asked us, Mr. Commander and me, to cook his lamb, especially for him. Okay? So from head to toe, it lasted a long time because he was only, maybe his wife, apparently, I think he had a wife, maybe between 1 or 2 persons. It takes a long time to eat a lamb, At first you start with the everything, brains, you name it. There's a lot of ways you could cook the lamb. Stews and so forth. So it lasted about, the lamb lasted about a month, 5-6 weeks. Okay? But then, no more lamb. So we had to feed him the way we used to feed the other troops. And he didn't like it. He didn't realize that we didn't have any more lamb. So he came one day in the kitchen, furious. Franzosen is good. Guschen is good. House. We were thrown out of the kitchen, the two of us. Because it became impossible to live in that kitchen. You were tense like that. Every day you had to suffer. Every day you had to be beaten. And you said one day I'm going to have it for good. So we decided was the best thing he could do for us, to throw us out. So we went out, and luck followed us. We went to the peeling potatoes, which is not too hard. We still have a roof over. So that's very important in a camp. If you have a roof over your head, even if you don't have much, to eat, but as long as you don't have to produce in the cold, and so we went there, and one day we knew that the Russians were not too far. We knew that the landing had taken place. We knew all that. There is a wireless that in prison, that everything goes. I don't know how, but anyhow, we managed to know that the landing had taken place the year before, in 1940. In 1945, 44. And under no circumstances should we fall alive in the hand of the enemy. That was the orders that Himmler had given every commanding officer. He was supposed, he had to find a way to evacuate us or kill us, one way or another. That was the order. We knew about it through different channels. So that was a very, very bad moment, you know. But anyhow, the order came. Some guy was sent by boat on the Danube. Others were sent back to Mauthausen. And I was in a group of about 200-300 left until the last moment. And we got scared. We really thought that maybe we didn't know what he was in mind. We knew the orders. He had to evacuate or get rid of us. So we had to organize a resistance. We had a couple of Russian officers, French and so forth and so on, and we had managed a plan of if we were turning right, which means that we were going toward the tunnel, that means jump on. So we had a group of 5. Each one jumped on a guard. 5 men against 1 guard. See? The commanding the man was a Russian general. He was supposed to lead. The minute he did that, we were supposed to jump and then grab whatever rifle or whatever the guard had and run into the woods. That was a very dangerous game because we knew that in front of us we had a couple division of SS, and the way we were dressed, the way we were looking, if we were falling into the SS, but that's a chance we had to take. So luckily, instead of turning right, we turned left. So it took us, we went to the railroad station in Melk, and as we arrived, we were attacked by Russians. The Russians were attacking our train. They didn't know who we were, you know. So luckily we went into the town was empty. All the Germans were gone. So we went into the garden. We managed.
What month is this? What month is this? Milk.
This is Roosevelt. When did the President Roosevelt died? In February, no?
April 12th.
April. A few days after Roosevelt, because Roosevelt died, they were crazy, joy, jump in the air, Roosevelt kaput, and blah, blah, blah. So it was after, it must have been beginning of April. And then the train finally left, and it was a pleasant ride, you know, no guards, I mean, very loose. We could, every time the train stopped, we could go out, and the civilian would give us water. Oh, we said, it's beautiful, you know, the war is over, we've had it. And finally, around late in the afternoon, that April month, we arrived in a town called Ebensee. Ebensee in the Tyrol mountain. It must have been beautiful, but when you're a prisoner, you don't see it that way, but it must have been beautiful. Mountains covered with snow all over. And the reception, they were waiting with us again, with dogs, blah, 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 all the rest. And so you jump from one, you hope, and then you go back again. And then we met some prisoners who were going to work. Oh, he says, guy, boy, this is worse than milk. Oh, yeah. So we went to the camp and finally again back to work. The following morning, I was at work in a tunnel because we were digging tunnels for the Nazis to build their factories, underground factories, so that the Allied couldn't bomb them. They were, so we were digging those tunnels. It was a very, very difficult, dangerous job, you know. And but luckily, we knew that the Americans were coming, and the Russians were not far. We could hear the cannons, the guns, and everything. But again, we didn't know what was going to happen to us. So one morning, dead all over the place. Phew. There's no more food. There was no more because all the camps were coming toward Ebensee. They were all coming here. Ebensee was a camp that usually had about 10,000 people, and all of a sudden we have about 25,000 people, and the food is scarce. There's nothing, so it's very, very, very dangerous. We lost a lot of guys. That's why in the dead list that I gave you, you don't see them there because there is no more contact. You pile them up, you pile the dead, and that's it. And finally, we were liberated the 6th of May. Around the 1st of May, maybe it was. One morning, all those that were able to stand up, because there was thousands of sick people, typhus, you name it, the barracks were full of guys who were really skinny. And so all of us, all the ones that were able to work, we had on the Appellplatz, you know, a roll call. And as we came, we were about 3,000-4,000 men. And as we came, we saw a line of SS with machine guns pointing toward us. Oh, it was scary, you know. We didn't realize what it was. So he started. He calls a lot of interpreters in all the language, in Greek, Italian, you name all the language possible. And his appeal was about something like this. Your friends, or something like your friends, the enemy is coming, is approaching, are coming. I have decided to fight to the last, but I have to protect my prisoner. For your protection, meaning, you know, we're going to fight, and for your protection, I have decided to send you, and he mentioned tunnel or something. At that particular time, we realized that what he had in mind. And we say, no.
What did he have in mind?
In mind, to blow us up, to blow the whole thing. It was discovered after the war. It was told in many American magazines, in Look and all the magazines at the time. It was proven. We had the proof. See? Because the mines, the tunnel was dig this way. Okay, there were 7 of them that were completed, working. We were making all kinds, armaments, you name it, refinery, everything. We did, dug in tunnels. We lost thousands of men to dig this. But the last 2 tunnels were dig this way, but they were not connected. And he wanted to send us on the last one, and we knew that the last one was not connected. So we made 2 and 2 is 4. He jumped. It went through the ranks. I think everybody felt the same way. So before he had time to think, he said 9, yeesh, no, no, in every language, no. Was the first time that president dared to say no. And we knew he had this couple of machine gun in front of us. All he had to do was to give an order, but even if he had given an order, at the state of mind we were in, he could have killed a certain amount, but not 3,000 or 4,000. We would overrun him. We were overrunning, and he realized that. So he took his machine gun off and his guard and everything. But during all that day and the day after, we were scared. We thought he was going to come one after one barrack, and get rid of us that way. He didn't. He couldn't do it. And then finally, we saw that they were leaving. And then on the 6th of May, one morning, we heard that the Americans were down in the valley. The word came that they were approaching, and finally by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, something like that, they entered the camp. They disconnected the electricity around the barbed wires, and a couple of small tanks, very small tanks, I mean light tanks. And I'll never forget, when I see the first guy come out of his tank, I thought he came from Mars, because he had antennas in his helmet, you know. Ah, this sensation, beautiful. So my English helped me a little bit during all these days. Everybody said, Pierre, tell him to send some food and medicine and blah, blah, blah. So I tell the guy, I said, listen, you've seen nothing here. I said, if you see the camps, there's thousands of dead, but I said, thousands of very, very sick. Could you please send a wire to the rear and tell them to send as much food and medicine and everything? So that's what he did. You know, he was in radio contact with the rear. That was Patton's army, Third Army. He did that. And in the following day, maybe a day or two after, a huge kitchen came in, you know, we were fed, given all kinds of food, but with moderation, you know, because at the beginning the soldier used to give us a lot of food, and we were so dehydrated that a lot of people died because they were eating too fast. And then finally, the American came a second, the third night with huge machinery, you know. There was about 2 or 3 acres of wood. In few hours, everything was gone. They bought tents, they bought medicine, they stopped everything, bought that diary, they stopped it. They did a fantastic job. Fantastic job. Trying to save as many as they could. And they saved a lot. But unfortunately, those who were too far gone, they just couldn't help. But they did a fantastic job. I'll never forget that. And then, again, the organization, communist, political phase again, they organized a committee, international committee, you know, Spanish and Polish and Russian and so forth. And the man in charge I said, Pierre, you speak English. Why don't you go? You're going to be you work with the captain in charge. You'll report to us what he says, what he wants, and so forth. So I was very, it was very pleasant because instead of sleeping in the barracks with the other guy, I slept in this nice room, the former SS room. The guy was a couple of GIs. They were very nice. They gave me food. They gave me shirt. They were, everything. And then one day, shortly after liberation, a guy came and said, Pierre, I want you to come with me. He said, you know what he wanted to do, the officer? I said, I have no idea. And he said, he wanted to blow us up. And this, we took the jeep with the Captain Sheen. His name was Captain Sheen, the captain in charge. We went to the tunnel, and sure enough, right under the entrance was a little locomotive, the one that you use in construction, full of dynamite, instead of coal. So you can, the journalists came, American, French, British, American, and it was written in all the magazine of the day that that's what he wanted to do. It would have been a beautiful end for him. He would have finished his career like he, a real SS, blow us about a couple of hundred, maybe 3,000-4,000, I don't know. How could have we survived? We couldn't survive because the tunnel was not connected. We were suffocated, and we would have been found maybe a week or two after, all dead. That's why we managed, luckily, we didn't live. So we were, Captain Sheen, he was a beautiful man. Of course, the first thing he did, he said, Pierre, I have to do something. He said, you guys, they suffer too much. The whole population, the whole town has to visit that camp. And he said, Pierre, you're going to be in charge of them. So he brought women, men, children, all of them, by load of, let's say, 100 each time, every day. And he said, now, Pierre, you take command. Oh, so you take command. You speak to them in German. So I did what he told me, and I said, in Gleisrich, march. So 5 by 5, that's the way it has to be in German, and Gleisrich march, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and we went. And he said, Pierre, I wanted to see. And he gave me a couple of GIs with me. And when we came to this barracks, and these women who have never seen anything like it, who said they were ignorant, who said they hadn't seen anything, I said, go ahead inside, go inside. And we pushed them inside, all of them, make sure that they all went. And they saw those poor guys dying from typhus, from everything, in the mud and everything, Okay, and they vomit, they fainted. No, go. That's not American propaganda. This is Zurück, cook and die. I used my, and we made sure that they could see. And so as they came out of that barrack, we take them to another one, and then we took them to the crematorium. There was bodies up to the ceiling, one on top of the other with sardine. I said, this is not American propaganda, huh? This is you. You made that. Oh, what? I didn't know. Never mind, you didn't know, sure. Then one day, a woman comes to the camp to see Captain Sheen. And I was him. He said, oh, Captain, I come because our poor children have no milk for the last 5 days. And children, you need milk, Captain, He looked at me, and he looked at her. And then he got up. He said, Madame, how dare you? It's 5 days that we occupied your town. 5 days that you said that your children have no milk. But he said, during all the years that the European boys and girls, children had no milk and nothing, did you ever worry, Madame? Get out. He looked at me and said, Pierre, what nerve they have. How can they come after 5 days complain? I said, Captain, you're right. That's a good thing. You see, this is what happened. And then finally, he told me, Pierre, I cannot send you back home. There's bridges destroyed. There's no train running. It takes a while. But the other guys, that's when I saw the politics playing in there. I could feel that they were not pleased with Captain Sheen. And I used to tell them, I said, the captain is doing everything he can, but there is a limit. That's all right, we'll find it. But anyhow, there's nothing they could do. Communists and non-communists, there's nothing. They could build bridges. Finally, after 3 or 4 weeks, we finally find a way to leave, group by group. I traveled across Germany. I remember being through Nuremberg, and I don't remember. I don't know how I came in. I don't know how I came out of Germany. I don't know. All I know is that I was alive. And unfortunately, we had lost a lot. I've seen all of them. I was the only, out of 57 that we were arrested, only Jacqueline and another are still alive today. Out of 57, we only either 7 or 10 came back, I'm not too sure. All the rest died. So the list that I gave you is a proof. That doesn't take away anything that the Jewish have been through, because it's a different story. Theirs was more horrible than ours. It's a different ours. Because once there were those that didn't go to the gas chamber in Auschwitz was sent to our camp, so we had the same treatment. The difference is that their wife and children were burned. That's the most horrible thing that happened to the Jews. That did not happen to us. It happened, we died in a different way. There's a difference. That's why when I went to Washington the other day, it was called the other victims, us, the non-Jews. And we're trying to communicate to the public in the United States that the Holocaust was not strictly a Jewish affair. There were 6 million Jews that died, but there's only a couple of millions of other non-Jews, like the Russian prisoners of war, and all of us. And to trying to make the public understand it is not strictly a Jewish affair, that other people have. And of course, I forgot to mention the Marseillaise again that we sang when we were liberated. That was the second beautiful Marseillaise, the one from Compiègne, and the last one, the national anthem. You sing, you cry, and then finally you evacuate. Finally, I went through. I don't remember how I went. I know I was in a bus with a couple of Sikh guys. I went to Nuremberg. I went to see the American in charge. He gave me food, he gave me cigarette, and I told him, I said, Captain, I have a few too sick with me. I can't carry any further. Could you please take them in charge? He said, because they're going to die with me. And he said, okay. So he took them. And we managed to reach another point. And then finally, we were sent, we crossed the Rhine someplace, I don't know where, and we arrived in France. And then, of course, things to begin to change, because Red Cross was there. We were received with, like heroes, even though we're not heroes, we're survivors. But anyhow, we had a wonderful, and then of course we managed to meet our family, but our families didn't know. Nobody knew where we were. We didn't know whether we were dead or alive or where. Nobody knew. It was kept secret. Nobody knew. We saw this plane coming every day on top of us. We wish sometimes they used bombs us, but come on and destroy something around here. Maybe we'd have a chance. No, nobody seems to know. The high command, or if they knew, nobody cared. Because you see, most of us was treated as terrorists. This is the picture that was described. We were terrorists, communists, bandits. Good from, who cares about bandits? Would you go and help a terrorist if you're in prison? You say, see, that's what the German people were told we were. We were not told why we were, the real reason why we were in the concentration camp. They were told that we were a bunch of criminals that killed their soldiers or communists or whatever, terrorists. But we were described. So that's why we had they had no pity for us. I never felt any sympathy from any German. In their eyes, we were. So we returned, and then of course we sent a telegram. We were 3 survivors from Chateaubriand. Jacqueline, I didn't know about Jacqueline. I never heard of Jacqueline. Jacqueline came back long after. Her story is different. She was liberated in Ravensbrück by the Swedes, and so we arrived at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I remember my wife jumped out of bed when she was told she still had a robe, no shoes on. Oh, what a reception when we met our people. Then automatically, what happened to my husband? What happened to my son? Then that was a sad story. We had to tell everyone. Those who were sure of their death, we had to tell them brutally. It's brutal. You tell a person it was gas. I remember, to me, being gassed meant nothing. I didn't realize that it was awful to say a person always been gassed. And a woman said, oh, Pierre, how come you treat us? Oh, I'm so sorry. I said, I didn't mean to hurt you, but that's the way it happened. That's the guy with the wooden leg. I knew he was gassed. So I told her. Then you have to tell everybody, your son, your daughter, your husband, your father. We had to go from house to house, from town to town, all over. And then you had to go to masses and funerals, and so it was a sad thing. But anyhow, we were alive, and life goes on, and I had to rebuild my life again, because Chateaubriand was not my town. My town was Le Havre. My job was the ship. I was intended to go back. But my apartment had been taken over by a poor woman who had lost her apartment because Le Havre was half destroyed. The city was completely out of. So they had to put those poor people who had lost their home in somebody else's home. And they put a woman whose husband was dead, a little baby, a little girl. I said, "Madam, I want to come back." But I said, "Where am I going to go?" I said, "Imagine." So I had to find her a place to live. And finally, I brought my family from Chateaubriand to Le Havre. And the situation was very bad in France. The country was in bad shape, let's put it this way. Millions of prisoners coming back from all over camps, from the prisoners of war camp. The cities were destroyed. All the harbors, Lorient, Saint-Nazaire, Le Havre, Brest, Cherbourg, you name it. There was nothing left. So there was no possibility for me to find a job, to find something to start my life. Then my apartment, when we started, there's only two of us and a little baby. Then when we come back, there's another baby. That's four. It was too small for the all of us. And then the ship. I said, okay, maybe I have to go back on another ship. I hated to go back but that was my only opportunity. So in January of 1946, after only a few months of relaxation, not relaxation, but I was asked to go back to England to pick up the Ile-de-France, and I went back to England. Ile-de-France, we carried troops from Southampton to Halifax. But I realized that the sea was not for me anymore. I'd lost my enthusiasm. I wanted to be with my wife. We have been separated too long, and the separation cruel like this. I wanted to be, but where to go? And so after we decided, my wife said, "But Pierre, why don't we go back to the United States? I have my mother and father over there. You know the United States. I know the United States. I've been brought up there. Why don't we go back?" I said, "Go back. I fought for my country. I didn't want to leave France. I love my country. You don't go like this and say, I'm leaving. But like that." And then I realized that she was right. I said, "What am I going to do here? Nothing. I don't want to be on charity. I don't want to be on welfare. I don't want to be that. And the decision was taken. And so she came first because she had a passport. I think I told you she had a passport from pre-war days, a stamp. So the authority of Germany made no problem, and the two children were put on their passport. So they left around April 1946, and on the Santa Paula, I remember. And my ship crossed across. I could see her ship going to the United States, and on the channel, and mine coming to Cherbourg. I'll never forget that. So I sent a message, a wireless. I sent a message from ship to ship, and she arrived in New York with the two children around April, May, something like this. But I had to stay in Paris, in France. I couldn't leave. But I thought I would be able to leave very soon. I said, "Don't worry, I'll be in New York very soon." Well, then the months started to, May, June, July, August. I was writing her, she was writing me, "What are you doing? How come you don't come?" And I was to say, "Well, I can come because the American authorities don't give me my visa. Every day or every 2-3 days I used to go to American consul in Paris. Sorry, there is a quota. So much we're allowed to come every month. So you couldn't, the quota you couldn't jump over." So one day I decided, I remember that I had given an American, had given me a letter from those two flyers that I mentioned to you before. The American authority in Paris, they said, "Mr. Troadec, we want to do something for those who help our men. We have to find them." And he found them in all his files. So he gave me a beautiful letter. In every occasion, we asked the American authority to give assistance to Mr. Troadec, who did this and did that and did that. And I've been waiting for 5 months in Paris, and I'd forgotten that damn letter. All of a sudden, it came back. So I went to see. The secretary took my letter to the consul. "Right away, Mr. Troadec, come in. How come you didn't come sooner with a letter like this? We would be in America long ago." I said, "Sir, I forgot about it. I didn't realize that I didn't think about it." He said, "Come on, Miss So-and-so, meet the secretary." We went to lunch together, or a drink. We had together with the consul. He was happy. And the following day, I was in Cherbourg, and I left. That's it. And then, of course, the rest is history. But we've been here since 1946. It's a long time. I've been living more here than I have been in my own country. I go back to France once in a while, especially to see my old pal. I stop in Paris, say hello. And then another survivors in Chateaubriand. That's where we always go because we still have families there. And I'm working on something right now. The guy that sent me to the kitchen, the one I told you, he saved my life later on. I've forgotten so many things. He really was a... So he died a couple of years ago. I couldn't go to his funeral, but I've decided to... I want a street to be named after him. And I've written the mayor, the senator, and I've received a letter the other day that my letter was well received. It's going to be given to the council, and most likely I'm going to be invited to go to inaugurate the street Quentin Miglioriti. And this, to me, is my thing I could do for my friend. And I'm also grateful I was able to come with you here because I always thought I would, I always try to, not to try to pity ourselves for what we did. We wanted to do it. We have no excuse. I mean, it's not something that it's not if we had, we did. But the only thing that we want the world to know that we didn't deserve a treatment like this. You're a prisoner, respect the prisoner as a human being. Make him work like a prisoners of war. Because you see, that's another story that people don't know. The Germans respected the Geneva Convention for the prisoners of war. There was 2 million French prisoners of war. I had a lot in my family. Not one has complained. I had a cousin. He was running the farm for the farmer. The farmer was in the front and my cousin was running the farm with the wife. I told him, I said, did you have an affair with his wife? Maybe I have to joke about it. No, he was running. Another one was a carpenter. The boss had to go to the front. He was running my cousin. So you see, they respected the Geneva Convention, whether they were British, American, French. The only people they didn't respect was the Russian. Because the Russian didn't sign the convention, so no respect for them. And they paid the price after that because when the Germans in Stalingrad, as you know, they lost a lot of men, and the Russians took them prisoners of war, and they did the same thing to them. And that's why the Germans left a lot of soldiers died in camps in Russia. But this is because there's no convention between... but otherwise, the Germans were better, the prisoners were better treated than with the Japanese, for instance. The Japanese were tough. If you didn't try to escape a prisoners of war camp, officers were not forced to work. Even a soldier could refuse to work. The only thing that he couldn't go out of the camp. So what? He stayed in the camp. But you see, they respected. So there's two stories there, ours and the other one. Who to believe? And it's true. I don't know one prisoner of war that has ever said that he was. No, he said I was treated fair. We received packages from home. There were letters from their wife. We had never had nothing. We never had a letter. We never had packages. My mother-in-law in New York went to the Red Cross, went to to try to find where I was. Never. He's in the camp, but we don't know her. That's the big, and that's the thing that the Nazis did for us. That they deprived us of a minimum of respect, of humanity to others. We were treated worse than cattle or dogs or whatever. This is something that they have to, unfortunately, that the German people will have to live for a long time, because a story has to be told. Another generation has to be told. Not to be anti-German, because I've learned a long time since then that every country can easily follow a leader. We have seen that all over and it can happen, but at least not to repeat those kinds of things. This is the only thing that we can say. This is the only way we do in that association in Paris that we have. When we bring those young people to the camp, they're being told, being shown, they make up their mind. See, we on the contrary, French and German now have a very, very close understanding. It took 4 million net, but nowadays I have a little niece who goes to Germany in a German family, and vice versa. A little German come to her, a German came to France. There is a friendly relationship between France and Germany now.
Were you able to tell your children about your experiences?
A little bit, but they know. My son more, because my son he teaches in North Carolina now. He's a teacher, history and so, and he's more interested. But no, never. I never told my children, most of them. They know, but never. No, it's too long, and it takes an occasion like here today to speak about it. But and we very seldom mention. Sometimes, because sometimes we are hungry to see the way it's presented, like organ zeros, for instance. You take pictures like that. People don't know what it is. It's presented as a picture, as something where the good guy always wins. I'm sorry. You see, Americans have a funny... I only saw one picture that was really, really... And it didn't last very long. It didn't last 2 weeks. It was made in Poland. The story, I knew the story because a French prisoner who was in Auschwitz had told me the story when I was in the camp, and the picture was about that.